Okay, so this is the student learning outcome video. I'm going to explain what the student outcome or student learning outcomes are. Throughout the semester, I'll probably be abbreviating them as SLOs because it takes forever to type student learning outcome. But basically, when the department thought up these classes and decided what we were going to teach and how we were going to teach it, they came up with these learning outcomes, and it was the things that they basically want students to get out of these classes. So these are the core sorts of ideas that we're focusing on and that I'm supposed to be transmitting to you as you work your way through the course. Um, and when you do your reflections, right, and also when you do finish your portfolio at the end of the semester, you're actually required to kind of talk about some of these student learning outcomes a little bit. So here we go. Rhetorical situation and genre. That's the first one. We've already been talking about that quite a lot. So you will learn to analyze, compose, and reflect on arguments in a variety of genres, considering the strategies, claims, evidence of various mediums and technologies that are appropriate to the rhetorical situation. Um, so as we've talked about before, your rhetorical situation is your topic, angle, audience, purpose, and context. And then the genre, right? We've been talking about genres as well, and we've already written about print ads as a genre versus like video ads as a genre. And we've talked about video games versus video versus movie versus TV versus right Twitter ads, right? Like there's all kinds of different genres, and they all have different sorts of conventions and things that we come to expect from that genre. So that's all that means is you are learning how to like look at a text and figure out what genre it is, what the rhetorical situation it is, or what the rhetorical situation is, and how that specific text is operating within the constraints of a specific genre. Um, the next one is writing as a social act, right? So you should be able to describe the social nature of composing, particularly the role of discourse communities at the local, national, international level. So when we talk about audience, right, each audience is usually being targeted as part of a discourse community, right? So some of you have been writing about sci-fi, right? And sci-fi has like very specific sorts of expectations and actually a whole sort of like language uh, that people outside of sci-fi often don't understand. Like when you say like space opera, like that is something that a sci-fi nerd will get, and somebody who's used to like watching westerns is not going to understand. So same thing. Like one of my students wrote about being part of like the snowboarding discourse community, and he was saying like using all these different sorts of words for different techniques and moves, and also like most snowboarders will know what like it means to have like a yard sale, which is like when you crash so hard that like all of your gear goes flying off, and it literally looks like a yard sale because there's like crap scattered all over the mountain. So that's part of what we're talking about with writing as a social act is like you have a target audience, and that target audience is usually part of some sort of discourse community, right? And discourse community means like a community that shares a language. It shares certain types of words. And it understands certain types of phrases and ideas in a way that's specific to that community, right? Like yard sale, like space opera. Um, and so when you write, if you're writing as an insider for, um, like some like sci-fi magazine, you can just throw out the word space opera or steampunk or right or splatterpunk or like all these different types of words that you can't just throw out there if you're writing for a more generalized audience, right? In that case, you have to actually explain what these terms mean. Um, yeah, so basically, your SLO-B, writing as a social act, is to start thinking about and understanding the way that your writing is a social act, and in the terms that it is talking to specific audiences. Like almost no writing is done in a vacuum, except maybe journal writing. Maybe we see a lot of journals end up being published later on. So, but the writing you're doing for my class, and like 99% of writing that's done on Earth is actually done as part of the social act that is intended for a specific audience, and that the word choice, the structure, like everything about it is designed to best communicate a certain idea to a specific people or a specific group of people who share, right, a discourse community of some sort. Yeah, so writing is a process that is SLOC. Use multiple approaches for planning, researching, pre-writing, composing, assessing, revising, editing, proofreading, and collaborating and incorporating feedback, right? So that means that like a lot of people think about writing as paper, writing a paper. It's like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to start writing, and then I'm going to be done writing. And it's just like an A to B process where you're just like, okay, cool, step one, step two, and we're done. And that's not really what it is at all. Like writing includes a lot of brainstorming, writing includes revising, writing involves research, it involves rethinking, editing, right? There's a lot of it's not a linear process. It's more of a recursive process where you make, some progress and then you kind of like double back to the beginning and then you think about that and then you move again and you're constantly kind of like shifting around in this very like non-linear way. And so it's easier to write successfully when you forget about the whole idea that writing should be like an A to B straight line from beginning to end. Like a lot of the best writers I know don't even, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, but a lot of the best writers I know don't even write the beginning of their paper when they first start writing. They'll start in the middle and then work back to the beginning, and then they'll go from the middle to the end. Like they do all kinds of strange things when they're producing work that works for them as a process. And that's the whole idea, is that it's a process. It's not a straight line. And it involves a lot of stuff that happens in your head. It involves a lot of stuff that happens in drafting. It involves a lot more than just sitting down and physically putting down words on a paper. So SLOs D and E are grammar and usage, right? So improve your fluency in the dialect of standardized written American English at the level of the sentence, paragraph, and document. Okay, and we say standardized written American English. Basically for lack of a better word, and with like full recognition that the idea of a standardized written American English is like inherently hierarchical and very problematic, and that it is basically an agreement by the people in power that like this is how language is used right now, and that all of this can change tomorrow and probably will change in a couple years. So, and then analyze and describe the value of incorporating various languages, dialects, and registers in your own and others' text. So, basically start thinking more broadly about using other languages, which you're always welcome to do in my class, about using other dialects, and then sort of like thinking about the fact that English is not the the epitome of language in any sense of the word, and that there is value in other languages and in using other languages inside of a paper for an English class. So reflection, this is the big one, and this is part of what your portfolio is about, and the whole purpose of the portfolio is to evaluate your development as a writer over the course of the semester and describe how composing in multiple genres and mediums using various technologies can be applied in other contexts to advance your goals. And like what that really means is like, we want you to come through this semester constantly thinking about what you're learning. And it's been proven that students who are asked to reflect on what they're learning actually learn more because they kind of like solidify what they've learned in their minds rather than kind of like just letting it go and moving on to the next task. So reflection is actually part of the learning process of being able to think through something and be like, okay, cool, this is what worked for me. This is what I did right. This is what I learned right here. And then being able to build off of that reflection process. And then research, which is G and H. You want to use writing and research as a means of discovery to examine your personal beliefs in the context of multiple perspectives and to explore focused research questions through various mediums and technologies. This is really, really, really wordy way of saying like, learn how to research things and learn how to use questions as a way to like broaden your vision of a topic or a subject, and to not just like dive in trying to find proof of what you already think, but to be like truly open to the research process and be open to the possibility of encountering things that do challenge your pre-existing beliefs about something. What I really like seeing actually in a lot of my students' papers is they'll set out saying like, I'm going to prove this, and then over the course of the research process, they're like, you know what, I started out trying to prove this one thing, and then actually through the research I found that that was not actually correct and that this other thing was correct, right? And so that flexibility to know that you might change your mind and to feel comfortable changing your mind in the face of research is a really cool thing, and it's one of the best tools you have as a student and as a thinker. So, and then H is to integrate others' positions and perspectives into your writing ethically, appropriately, and effectively in various mediums and technologies. What that means is like, first and foremost, don't plagiarize. You're going to go out and you're going to find a bunch of really cool research, and you're going to be psyched about it. And the first thing you have to think about is, how do I not plagiarize that? That's what that means by integrating others' positions and perspectives into your writing ethically and appropriately. That means do not plagiarize. Furthermore, it also means, and I kind of mentioned this in my explanation for Project 2, is how to integrate positions and perspectives that don't line up with your own, right? So like how to take the time in your essay to say like, okay, this is what I'm trying to prove, this is what the opposition thinks, and to present the opposition's perspective respectfully, and to give it give it the time that it takes to like fully actually explain that position in a way that makes it seem like you are being respectful of your opposition before you then go to like prove that they're wrong or whatever. Okay, so that's part of that with research. Where are we at? I'm trying to like talk really fast so we can get through all of this before I run out of time. So I apologize. I compose a research-based academic argument in one of various mediums and technologies by identifying, analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing sources, which must include secondary sources, right? So this right here, you're going to be doing by going out and reading scholarly articles and including them in Project 2. Okay. And then J, analyze and describe the writing and research conventions of academic field in order to understand the different ways of creating and communicating knowledge. So basically, by the end of this class, you should be able to tell the difference between something that's written for like GQ or like Redbook or whatever, like something that's written for a generalized audience and something that's written for a specialized audience, right? So if you're reading something from GQ about climate change, the entire verbiage and tone is going to be very, very different than something you're going to go pick up about climate change through the UNM scholarly databases. That is an actual like peer-reviewed study, right, done by people who are specialists in that field, because they're writing for other specialists in that field who already have a very specialized way of speaking about these issues. Whereas GQ is not writing for specialists, they're writing for, right, the average person. And to an extent, the average dude who has a very specific interest in climate change, but who is not like really up to date on the terminology and the sciences behind that, right? So that's one of the goals here in terms of research, and that has to do with genre to an extent, is that you'll be able to say like, okay, this is something for an academic field, and this is why, this is how I can tell that this is a specifically academic article versus like this is something for a generalized audience. Okay, so these are the SLOs. I've asked you guys for your reflection to comment on how you interacted with at least 2 of these SLOs. If you have trouble with that, don't worry, you can send me a message and I can kind of help you out a bit. But overall, just be like, okay, SLOB, right? Writing is a social act and this is why, and SLOF for whatever it is, and just explain how you interacted with those SLOs during Project 1. Okay, thanks. Bye.